Hey everyone out there listening, and welcome to Nat Chat. I'm Nat Eliason, and we are currently exploring what to do as a college student or recent graduate who feels like there's something broken about the current system of grades, lectures, degrees, and one-size-fits-all careers. In this episode, we have Justin Mares. Justin has had a wild journey through the entrepreneurship and marketing world since his sophomore year of college, when he started a company to help incoming students find better roommates. When that shut down, he collaborated with Gabriel Weinberg to write the best-selling book Traction. He ran growth for Exceptional Cloud Services, which was acquired by Rackspace. He became a mentor for companies going through the 500 Startups Incubator. And he's the founder of 3 businesses right now: Perfect Keto, Fomo, and Kettle and Fire, which is his main focus and where he spends most of his time. Justin was also my first mentor in the marketing world. He and I ended up chatting while I was a junior in college. I worked for him for a few months, and then we started programming for marketers together, which was later purchased by General Assembly. This episode was a blast, since Justin has explored so many areas and worked on so many different things. We covered how he got into his current businesses, but also cryptocurrencies, books, highbrow dander, and a lot more. Be sure to say hi to Justin after the episode on Twitter at JWMares, M-A-R-E-S, and let's welcome him to the show. Justin, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
It's kind of funny getting to sit down and have a semi-formal conversation.
In my beautiful, beautiful room.
Beautiful bedroom. Yeah. Well, the wonderful thing about podcasts and the internet is nobody knows just exactly what your setup looks like.
Yeah, thank God. I've only been here 2 weeks and I'm not moved in yet.
Well, it's okay. You've got all the books lying around. And
yeah.
What we were looking at before is your girlfriend gave you a Bitcoin miner.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure that's a miner yet because I haven't played around with it yet.
Okay.
But it's like a Bitcoin computer of some sort.
How did you get interested in crypto originally?
Yeah. So I first heard about it when I was in San Francisco in 2009. And I met someone that was doing Bitcoin trading and we had lunch, and like Bitcoin then was 50 cents to $1. Maybe it was less than $10 for sure. And we were just talking, and like, I've always had an interest in finance. And I thought that creating a new currency that's decoupled from government is like kind of inherently interesting. Mm-hmm. And just kind of at the time I was like, oh, cool, Bitcoin, whatever, people are talking about it sounds sweet. And I tried to buy some and I couldn't figure out how. Like, then you had to be so technical to buy something. And like an idiot, I was like, oh, I think this is going to be huge, but I can't figure it out. I'll just stop. Like, that's the worst mentality. It's like the anti-entrepreneur mentality. And then Bitcoin exploded. And after that, I was like, fuck, I really missed that one. And so I actually wrote a blog post about how I could have made probably $400K in college had I invested in that, but I didn't.
But you did invest in Ethereum.
I did invest in Ethereum. Yes.
Yeah. And that's gone up, what, like 200x since?
Yeah, probably about that.
That's pretty wild. I know my housemate did something pretty similar to you too. And so he's just been, when we're recording this, Ethereum in particular is on a massive spike.
Yeah, it's up about 50% in the last 30 days.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's insane. So your housemate did the same thing?
He did something pretty similar. Yeah, I think he bought when it was $1 or $2.
Amazing.
Yeah, and now it's way up.
But it's crazy, I know. And then I look back and I'm like, well, I called that, but I didn't put enough money in. And like, it's just learning lessons.
Well, how are you tracking for other cryptocurrencies that are coming online? And do you think there's actually room in the market for more than 2 or 3 big players?
Yeah, so tracking very well in the others. But it's also incredibly frothy and overbought right now. And so Bitcoin is at an all-time high. Bitcoin's up 48% in the last 30 days. Ethereum's up 50% in the last 30 days. Like, clearly it's just frothy. So everything's working now.
Right.
So I don't know, like, most of them will probably be wiped out soon. Maybe. I don't know.
Most of the smaller coins will probably be wiped out?
No, sorry. Most of my investments will probably be wiped out. But we'll see. And then, yes, I think that there's definitely room. I mean, because I think that Bitcoin is like a fundamental technology innovation. And so if in 1995, the web came along and someone was like, do you think there's room for all these websites? Like, at the time, people were probably like, I don't know. I mean, there's Yahoo, and then I have an email, and like, that's all the things I need on the internet. And clearly the answer to that is like, yes. And I think that the same thing applies to Bitcoin, where you can almost look at a lot of these altcoins, many of which are scams and like probably will amount to nothing, like many .com companies in the 90s. But I think you can probably look at these altcoins and say like many of these will be the Amazons, the Facebooks, the Twitters, the whatever of the blockchain crypto kind of space.
Got it.
So yes, I think there's a lot of room.
And how are you finding those new ones that are coming online?
Just by being a nerd, being like really deep into this stuff. I have friends that are in this. We have like 3 friends in particular. We just have this massive email chain where we're like, yo, I'm going to short Ethereum. Like we're just like going back and forth about things that we're going to buy into and get out of and all that stuff. It's very sketchy though.
Nice.
It's not a mature enough industry that it's anything but super sketchy.
Very cool. Yeah, I mean, it's something that I've always been really interested in. I had a similar experience in college where I had actually downloaded the mining software and I was running it on my computer. And I honestly, I don't know how many Bitcoins or partial Bitcoins are in that wallet, but that computer is basically bricked.
Dude, find that computer.
I know. I need to try to figure
I'll buy that computer from you for $5,000.
We'll talk after the show.
Yeah, when I was at Rackspace, there was some guy that was doing mining and he was doing mining back in the day and then he forgot about it and like moved or something. And when he moved, this was right around the time when Bitcoin was like exploding. It was the first time it hit 1,000 and he heard about it and he was like, oh shit, it's at 1,000. And he realized he had $15 million worth of Bitcoin on a hard drive that he lost in the move.
Oh man.
Yeah. And this is a dude making $60K a year at Rackspace. Like, fuck.
That's painful.
Yeah, that's painful.
Oof. Yeah. Well, I mean, originally didn't bring you on to talk about Bitcoin. We just got so into it before we started.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, one of the reasons I wanted to bring you on is that, you know, one, we've been good friends for a number of years through a lot of projects. And also, I think you have had an extremely fascinating graduation to post-college career.
Maybe.
That probably could not have been predicted from the outset.
No, certainly not.
So I actually wanted to start back in college with roommate fit.
Oh God.
We'll get to your big achievements later.
Oh God.
So tell us about roommate fit. Tell us that story.
Yeah. So roommate fit was the first company I started. I basically had the worst roommate I could have imagined.
Is this the one who shit everywhere?
He smelled like shit. And yes, he did shit quite all over. He also had like a skin condition, so he would put baby powder on himself like liberally just in the room. So it'd be like baby powder on my stuff. Yeah, it was terrible, like just a horrible living experience. And so my freshman year, I was like, this sucks. I'm thinking about transferring because this is such a bad experience. It made my freshman year, or it contributed to me having a really rough freshman year. And I wanted to solve that problem. And like around the same time that happened, I was like, I got rejected from every internship I applied for. My family had moved. So I was in bumfuck Pennsylvania with 0 friends within 50 miles, working as a janitor at LA Fitness. And I was like, I need to do something. And so like, this is not what I thought my life would be. And so that's when I had this idea and I got encouragement from a couple of different mentors and was just like, I'm going to try and start my own company. And that was Roommate Fit, which was like the eHarmony for roommates is what we called it.
So you started it your freshman year, sophomore year?
Sophomore year.
Got it.
Yeah, started at sophomore year. And then we got our first couple customers from me just emailing housing admins from my Gmail address. It was like the sketchiest thing in the world. And yeah, we got 3 customers that first year. I made my first like $1,000, which was very exciting at the time.
Good feeling.
Yeah. And and then got into Alpha Lab, what's funny is actually I won more prize money for having a company than the company ever made in revenue. Like I won 20 grand worth of like entrepreneurship competitions.
Yep.
And we made like $2,000 in revenue total over the life of the company. And so that was Roommate Fit, and then shut it down after I left college.
Why did you shut it down? Just wasn't working out, or?
It was fundamentally not a very good idea, I think. And then I think the idea was bad. It wasn't blowing up. We had 15 grand left in the bank. I couldn't pay anyone to do it with me. I couldn't build it on my own. And I had another opportunity to work with like probably the best entrepreneur that I've ever met. And so I just kind of like jumped at that.
And what was that other opportunity?
So that was to run growth at a company called Exceptional Cloud Services. And that was a bootstrapped SaaS company run by like the smartest guy I've ever met.
How did you find one of them? How did you find that opportunity?
So while doing Roommate Fit, I also started working with another startup from Pittsburgh called CloudFab, and it was like a 3D printing company. And so I was in San Francisco. I moved out there with the founder of CloudFab for the summer after my junior year. And that's when I met this guy, Jonathan from Exceptional, like just randomly. And he was awesome.
And when you got that opportunity, did you already know how to do all of the growth and marketing stuff that you would
No,
need?
not really. No.
Okay.
No, I mean, so they were bootstrapped and Jonathan pretty much liked me. I'd read a lot about marketing, like I could talk it and had some good ideas. And he was pretty much like willing to pay me very little and take a flyer on the idea that he'd be able to teach me what I needed to know. And that turned out to be pretty accurate. Yeah. So it ended up working.
How big was the company at that point?
When I joined,
Mhm.
8, 7.
Okay. So you got in very early.
Yeah. So I was like devs, support, product managers, founders. Like I was the first person on the marketing sales side.
Nice. And how long were you there for?
I was there for a year and a half.
And
Yeah.
that was when it was sold to Rackspace?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So how was that transition?
It was fine. It was cool. I mean, I got a nice salary bump when we got acquired, which was great. But I mean, ultimately it wasn't what I wanted to do. And so it was fine. And it gave me, it got me to San Francisco. Mm-hmm. I was very fortunate in that because we came in after the acquisition, it was like I could move here and not really have to worry about like making rent or what. It wasn't like your standard startup where you move with $1,000 in the bank and trying to make it work in SF. Like I was getting paid and it was a pretty easy job where I was hitting my numbers. Like I just stopped going into the office on Wednesdays and Fridays and no one said anything.
Nice.
Because my boss was in Austin. And yeah, so it gave me a really good opportunity to like work on my other stuff during off hours, which was great.
And one of those other things was the book Traction, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. So I co-authored the book Traction with Gabriel Weinberg, which was a book about like startup marketing and all that. And it was cool.
Yeah. How did that relationship get started? How did you start writing this book with Gabriel?
Yeah. So I cold emailed him because he was probably the best known tech entrepreneur in Philadelphia, or like at least a top 5. And so when my family moved there, I was like, I want to get into tech entrepreneurship. I don't know a single person in this world, in this universe. How do I do it? And like, what does a company look like? So I emailed him, we met up, and then just kind of from there, he was thinking about doing this book. It was an area I wanted to learn about. I wanted to build relationships in the kind of growth marketing world. Mm-hmm. And I also wanted to write a book. And like those 3 things kind of came together really well where I pitched him on being his co-author and he didn't have the time to do it on his own and wanted to write the book himself. And so it just ended up working pretty much perfectly. Honestly, like timing, just everything was perfect. And it was right when people were starting to talk about growth. We're starting to talk a lot about traction and marketing. Like we were one of the first books in the space, and it just a lot of things worked out really well.
Yeah. I mean, and it's still probably one of the books that I think people recommend most in that space.
Yeah, which is crazy. I was on a random website 2 weeks ago, and it was like a marketing services website. Mm-hmm. And they had in like the hero image of their website, they had some woman like clicking on a Facebook ad, but in the background, Traction was like sitting on her desk. Nice. And I was like, that's crazy. Like that's really weird.
Yeah. I mean, I've been doing some work with Patreon recently, mm-hmm. and one of the desks in the marketing department, like one of the first things I noticed when I walked in was that they had a copy of it.
It's awesome.
Right there by their laptop.
That's so cool.
Yeah. That was actually how we got connected too, because I had recognized your name in the Alpha Lab alumni from writing Traction.
That's right. Yeah. Because you were doing Tailored Fit then.
Yep. Yeah. Well, I was shutting it down.
Got it.
That was what we connected over, shutting down startups.
Specifically Alpha Lab startups.
Specifically Alpha Lab ones.
That's the Alpha Lab's graduation ceremony, is you shut your company down and go do something else.
The alumni network is strong. After Exceptional was acquired by Rackspace, you were there for a bit, and then you left and you were working on some of your own projects, mm-hmm. right? And this was, we'll get to Kettle and Fire soon, but
I want to talk broth.
Yeah, we'll get there. We've got some delicious broth around us too. But what were some of those other projects between your time at Rackspace and that's why I asked, because you've got some really funny ones in there. I think maybe we should start with, who is Brian Hedora?
Yeah. I forgot. You're one of like 10 people that knows about that. Yeah. So to preface this, I'll say that at the time I was like just trying to do my own thing and obviously didn't care what that was. And so I was just playing with a bunch of different things. And one of the things I tested was writing shitty Kindle ebooks under a fake name and paying someone on Upwork to write the actual book for me. So I wrote a 70-page shitty ebook called, I think it was Brain Supplements or like around nootropics.
Yeah.
And my pen name was Brian Hedora. Yeah. So
How did the book sell? Did that work out?
it did fine. I mean, it was like a couple $100 for a couple $100 a month for a couple months. So I made back my $400 I paid the writer.
It only cost you $400.
Yeah, right. I mean, it was like clearly
gosh.
not a quality book. Yeah, it was. But I mean, that was actually a great lesson for me because it really hit home that you're not gonna make a lot of money long term by churning out crap.
Yeah.
And that was a really good lesson to learn early on because I think that as I got into the entrepreneurship world, there's a lot of people, especially internet marketers, that are like, I'm doing this thing to make like $1,500 a month. And you're like, whoa, I'm not making anything a month. Like I should try and do this.
Yeah.
And then you realize that the piece of shit yoga mat they're buying from China and selling on Amazon, like everyone else is going to do the same thing. And then all the profits are going to be competed away and like you're going to suck.
Yeah.
And you've just wasted a bunch of time. It's like economics actually applies all over. And so that was a really good learning experience for me.
Well, you had a really good article on that idea. Value compounds, mediocrity doesn't.
Yeah. I mean, the basic idea is that I think when you put in the effort to make something exceptional, like, or really, really good, even, the value that you've created just keeps compounding. Like someone goes, I really enjoyed this article, this book on sex, this whatever it is. And like they tell their friends and you get referred to as the guy that wrote a really good book on sex. And like the value keeps compounding and you keep like meeting people and getting cool opportunities from that. Whereas if you just write an okay book on sex, like the mediocrity just doesn't compound. You know what I mean? Like you don't get any crazy returns. Like if Traction was an okay book on marketing, I wouldn't have had a tenth of the opportunities that I've had, you know?
Well, it's something that I think you see a lot in the lifestyle entrepreneur space too.
Yes.
People putting, like you're saying, a lot of effort into building a business that makes $2K, $3K, $4K a month.
Yep.
And I think I heard this first from Ankur Nagpal, who runs Teachable. He was saying that in the beginning, with that business, they had been thinking of just doing it as a lifestyle business, or maybe it was a related product, but then they realized you could spend the exact same amount of time building a multi-million-dollar business or a $5,000 a month lifestyle business.
Yeah, totally.
Right.
I mean, I think a lot of people, especially in lifestyle entrepreneurship, if you want to call it that, they just think really small. It's like, how can I scratch and claw my way to $2,000 a month or whatever? And I was doing the same thing, and I wasn't doubling down. And like, so for example, I made my buddy Scott Burton made one of the first Udemy courses. Like he had to be one of their first 300 instructors. And he told me about it. I saw he was making several $1,000s a month on that. Pretty easy. So I threw up a course. I made like a course called SQL for Marketers and put it on Udemy. And I filmed it in my bedroom. I am not a video guy. I'm not even a details guy. Like it's a very mediocre course. And I was making like $2,000, $2,500 a month or so for a couple months. And rather than be like, wow, this is a really good sign that there's something here, I should try and make it better, I instead interpreted it the wrong way. And I said, oh, I can just like make a bunch of shitty courses and I'll like make money on this. So that's what I did. And it worked. And then as soon as more instructors start coming on the platform, my shit got poor reviews. And then I stopped making money on it. And like, it was just the time that I spent, had I just put it into making SQL for Marketers 5x better, it would have been 100x as profitable. Yeah. And my former roommate did the exact opposite of me, and he makes incredibly high quality Udemy courses, and now he's making tens of thousands of dollars a month. I'm like, that's pretty sweet.
Well, it's the less time it takes to make something, right? The easier it will be for somebody else to come and eat your lunch.
Yes, exactly.
Make something better.
Exactly. Yeah. And because I'm kind of dumb, it like took me forever to understand that.
Well, I heard that as a good argument for some of these massive companies like Facebook, Amazon, taking as long as possible to reach profitability, because almost the quicker something can be profitable, the easier it would be for somebody else to enter into that market and compete with it, right? Whereas if you have to go for 10 years making no money, just amassing users and building that habit in, it's probably going to be much harder for someone to offset that market share.
Yeah, I could totally see that.
Kind of makes sense.
Yeah. So I just was doing a bunch of random stuff. Like I was doing Airbnb. I was buying motorcycles in Oakland and selling them in San Francisco because there was like a price premium that people would pay in San Francisco for motorcycles.
So you would go to Oakland, buy them, ride them over? And
No, I'd have them deliver it in San Francisco and pay them slightly extra.
And just turn around.
I don't have a motorcycle permit. I can't. I can't drive them. So I was doing that. I did the Udemy courses, and then I was just testing a bunch of like really awful ideas for websites and products and stuff like that.
Like what?
So I bought eyebrowdander.com. Like,
okay, you have to explain that one.
So include 800 people a month, including myself, occasionally have eyebrow dander.
How do you know that it's 800 people?
Because I looked on the traffic volume on Google AdWords. So 800 people a month search for eyebrow dander. The domain was available. And so I bought it and wanted to see if people would pay for like an eyebrow dander cream.
Are you sure that they aren't looking for eyebrow dander?
I'm not.
They could just be really into that.
Well, the test totally failed. So that could have been one reason why. So that happened. I was doing some consulting. I was looking at doing a real estate business. I was looking at doing a mental health business. I was looking at doing an e-commerce business. I was looking at doing like 2 different software businesses. I was just looking at everything.
Yeah.
I tried to buy a business with no money.
That's tricky.
Yeah, it was tricky. So I was just looking at everything basically.
What was the mental health business you were looking into?
So I will tell you because I'm probably not going to do it. Well, actually, I just want somebody to do it. There's a massive tech company to be built in the drug and alcohol addiction space. It's like a $35 billion space, no tech. The main treatment method is based on 1940s methodology, which is the AA program that was written by a drunk, like a very religious drunk, who later died of alcoholism when he relapsed. Like that's what most people in AA do. And there's like no data. People are spending a lot of money on this. It's a huge problem, huge opportunity. So I was looking at doing something in that space.
What motivated you to possibly get involved there?
I have had experiences early in my life with 2 different friends who had drug problems and really messed up one guy's life. And the other guy actually killed himself while he was high. And so like, that was it was a problem that I was aware of.
Yeah.
I would say. Yeah.
What made you decide not to go ahead with the idea?
So one of the other ideas I was working on, not working on, but tested was I put up a landing page selling bone broth via like the jankiest unbounce to PayPal checkout thing you've ever seen, where literally people were clicking on buy and then were directed to my PayPal account where it was like, do you want to PayPal Justin Mayer, jwmayers@gmail.com, $29.99. And $400 worth of orders came in on $40 in ad spend. It was like the best smoke test I have ever seen or heard of in my life. And so doing that, I was pretty much like, wow, we really have something here. Let's do this. Like I want to work for myself on something that's working, and I want to build my skills as an entrepreneur, because at that point I'd never started my own company successfully. And so I really wanted to work on like building my capabilities, get some financial rewards. And the addiction one is a totally different beast. Like you're in that business, you're trying to build a fundamental technology. I'm not a developer. So like what I can do with Kettle and Fire is like, great, I can apply my marketing skills. Like it's go time. Like I know what to do kind of. The addiction one was I would have to recruit a co-founder. I would then have to raise money. I would then have to like go deep on the problem space, launch a software MVP and just like hope something worked. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's just a much harder problem, at least for me, not for other people, but
So when that test went super well,
Yeah.
how did you figure out how to actually make this broth and get it in people's hands?
Yeah.
Because I think you didn't have any of that figured out before you tested it, right?
No, not at all. Not even close. Yeah. So once the successful test came by, came through, my brother and I, who I started the business with, we hit up like 300 different manufacturers in the US to see if they could make this product. And we eventually found one that could. And that's when we had them make us a bone broth and started selling it. Like that was pretty much it.
Yeah. So how long was it from that initial test to actually getting it in people's hands?
It was 10 months.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was a good chunk of time. I mean, we were also the first shelf stable bone broth. So like it took us a long time to figure out some stuff that others hadn't. And it was certainly a process.
Did you have to refund those initial orders?
We did. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. We refunded all of them. We refunded them as soon as they, as soon as they said it. Like I emailed everyone that bought and was like, hey, we don't actually have this product. If you want, I can refund you your full money, or I can refund you 50% and we'll ship you the product once we actually have it. And we had a couple customers that bought and received the product 10 months later. It's like very close to a scam, but whatever. They were happy with it. That's what they wanted.
Kickstarter model without the Kickstarter.
Exactly.
Sort of.
Exactly. So it was great.
And now it's what, a 10-person company?
9, yeah.
9-person, yeah.
Nine full-time North American employees. We also have 6 full-time employees in the Philippines.
Freelancers, consultants.
Yeah, and then a couple freelancers and consultants. Exactly.
And at the same time that you're doing Kettle and Fire, you also picked up this other business that is now called Fomo, right?
Yeah. So I think I have like ADD sort of in terms of doing stuff. But my now business partner and I, we were just like hacking on shit together because we really like one another and we have very complementary ways of thinking. And we stumbled across this Shopify app and called Fomo, and basically thought it was super interesting and ended up buying it from the owner. He was ready to move on. We wanted to buy something and work on something together. And so we ended up buying this Shopify plugin, turned it into a real software business.
The reason I bring it up is you structured that deal in a pretty interesting way. Can you talk about that? Or
Yeah.
do you know? Okay.
Yeah. So broad strokes, we structured it in a way where the owner retained a small percentage of equity in the acquiring entity. And then we bought the business from him using his own revenue, basically. So it's called seller financing. You almost never see it in software. It's actually very common in distressed residential real estate where someone wants to move out of their house, but no one's buying. They'll seller finance where they're basically taking on, instead of going to the bank, where I now go to the bank, they'll give me a loan. I use that loan to pay this person to buy the house. Instead, I'll just say, hey, can I move into your house and I'll pay you $2,000 a month for 10 years, and then I own the house at the end of that. And that's kind of what we did for this is we said, we're going to pay you this amount of money per month over a 20-month period. And by the end of that, we'll own the business outright. You'll have gotten 20 months of pretty fat checks and everyone will be happy.
It's super cool. I remember when you found it and we're talking about it, and that system works so well since you had the marketing abilities to apply to it.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Where now it's making more than the revenue it was when you purchased it. So everything on top of that.
It's like 3x in revenue since we bought it. And that's a really valuable skill because we knew we had to make those payments every month. And bad things happen if you miss the payments. So there's definitely risk on that side. But we thought we could grow this. And if we do, then we get a business without spending any of our money. That's amazing. But in order to do that, we need to actually grow the business. And so we spent a bunch of time working on that.
And because 2 things wasn't enough, you also have Perfect Keto, right?
Yeah.
So tell us about Perfect Keto.
Yep. So basically with Perfect Keto and Fomo, I found people that I really loved working with to the point where it was like, I just want to work with you on something so that we can hang out more and and that's not in a Justin can only have friends if he works with them, but it's just I really like these people, and there's a certain type of person who gets super excited about ideas and doing things, and being around those people is awesome for me. So anyway, my friend Anthony and I wanted this product, ketone supplements, and Anthony is the most health conscious, knowledgeable person. He already owns his own supplement company. So we were like, oh, we should just do a supplement together. It'd be cool. We'll call it Perfect Keto. Yeah. We want it for ourselves and we'll toss it on Amazon on our own website, see what happens. And that was about 6 months ago. And it's been cranking.
It's been doing really well, right?
Yeah. It's been going pretty well. Yeah.
So what's the process look like for you when you have something like Perfect Keto, Kettle and Fire that you want to test out? What are those first steps like?
Yeah, it's a good question.
And I imagine it's evolved over time.
It has. So with Kettle and Fire, I mean, basically I put up a fake landing page, bought ads, and just saw if people would check out. Perfect Keto, we didn't really test that much because I kind of knew I wanted it. And we kind of tested it another way. Like, to be fair, I think that I am a good enough marketer that I would like feel okay going up against other companies. And so in certain spaces. And so I looked at what some of the other keto supplement companies were doing, and I saw the revenue that they were doing and like what they were doing marketing wise, and the amounts of revenue they were doing versus how well they were marketing and how good the product was just crazy. They were doing tens of thousands of dollars and not marketing it well. Like, they had 2 domains and their product sucked and their packaging sucked. It was like, you could tell the people behind this had no idea what they were doing. And so that one, we didn't test as much. It was just like, can Justin outmarket these people that don't know what they're doing? Yes. Can Anthony develop a better product than these people that don't know what they're doing? Yes. And like, those 2 things were just kind of obvious to us to start, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it does.
Yeah.
What about some tests that didn't work out? Can you think of, I guess we have the example of the eyebrow dander.
I mean, dude, tons of them. Like, I had another one called Cloud Monks, I want to say. I was testing, which was like, you would send us your AWS bill and we would negotiate it for you and get a percentage of the savings. Because I knew the cloud space pretty well at the time. And that didn't work at all. Like,
No.
yeah, threw traffic to it, emailed people about it. Just no one cared.
No one bought it.
Yeah. So no one cared about that one. Had a alcohol brand that I was like testing, which tested okay, but like not crazy. So I didn't end up doing it.
What's your go, no go signal? Do you wait for something like Kettle and Fire where it's just obviously working right away?
Yeah, definitely.
So you'll only give yourself, 2 weeks, 4 weeks, not a large amount of time, right?
I mean, it was less like time bound and it was more like I would just be running a bunch of these tests in the background kind of. And I think that, at least for me, like, I think that you want to do things that you think have a really high probability of working. And when you see something just exploding out the gate, or someone getting really excited by the idea of a bone broth product they didn't know existed or that doesn't exist right now, and it just like, why would you not do that? Like, that's just, you're going with the wave, you're going with the tide, and you just have so much momentum that it's so much easier than pushing something uphill and like saying, I'm going to try really hard to figure out to take this idea and this approach and like make people want this. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's just a lot easier to go like, okay, this thing is blowing up. And if you have a bunch of ideas, I think anyway, that I could test, like, I probably have 100 ideas. I could test 100 and I just go with the one that works the best. And that is probably going to make you way happier than trying to like pick one on yourself and just force it to work at all costs.
And do you have any kind of process around coming up with those ideas?
Not really. No. I think half of it is just, or a lot of it is just kind of being aware, and in the startup space for a while, you just kind of look at different stuff and you're like, oh, that's totally an opportunity. Like right now, someone could do a better nightlife experience in San Francisco, and like you would do really well with that, just off the top of my head. Like there's just so many different ways that you could make money. It just, yeah, I don't know. I think you just notice them more and more.
But you obviously kind of didn't start out that way, right? It's
No. Well, I practiced it a lot in college. I think my ideas just sucked at the time.
Well, how did you practice it?
So James Altucher,
Altucher? I think it's Altucher.
Yeah, whatever. That guy. He wrote a blog post about this where he was like, try and write down 10 ideas a day or whatever and practice your idea muscle. And so I used to do that like all throughout college. I was writing down 10 ideas every day. And most, if not all of them, were just abhorrently awful. But I think now I would say that I'm relatively decent at spotting opportunities. And that, I think, though, is just like, it's taken me 8 years and a lot of reading and talking to people about startups and just like thinking incessantly about startups and business and shit. Like, people that know me, they just know I like this stuff a lot. And this is like my free time, fun obsessions. Like, I used to read about startups for fun and, all that. So I think you just go deeper into a space and then you start seeing things that you didn't before.
One thing I've noticed too is that there's sort of three phases with people with coming up with ideas for anything, where there's pretty much everyone starts out as, I don't have any ideas.
Yeah.
I don't know how to come up with ideas. What do I do? And then it's like, oh, I have a few ideas. This is awesome. I have ideas I can go after. And then it very quickly reaches the point of, I have way too many ideas.
Yeah,
I have no idea what to do with them.
Totally, man. Yeah. And there are things like you and I kind of found, actually, like programming for marketers, where it starts out and you're like, man, this is a sweet idea. And there's some subset of people that are going to get excited by this. But now that programming for marketers would not cross my like threshold of good enough of an idea that I would probably do it right now. Cause it's like a business where you could probably make a couple $100K a year. And that's a great business. But it's not like, it doesn't have the super high upside potential that I'm kind of interested in now.
It goes back to what we were saying earlier, right? You can spend a year building something that caps out at a couple $100,000, or you can build something that could be worth tens of millions of dollars.
Right. And in both cases, the effort is like sort of the same. Like I really don't understand why people spend their time working on really shitty businesses. Like, yeah, I just don't understand it. And it's everyone. I met a dude doing fresh dog food a couple weeks ago, and it sounds like he is just pushing a boulder uphill. And like, man, why would you even waste your time? Like, why?
To be fair, though, that does sound like it could be a pretty big market. You've got all these rich people who want their dog to have healthy organic food.
Undoubtedly, it's also a extraordinarily competitive one. And he's like a new entrant, and he doesn't really have branding experience, and he just wants a lifestyle business. But because it's so competitive and it's expensive, he has to raise money. And it's like, dude, if you want a lifestyle business, you just sign up for 5 years of pain trying to compete against all these big dogs, like pun intended. You know, like that's just wrong. I think you're making the wrong decision, you know?
How do you manage your time and focus across all these projects?
Oh,
because you've got those three companies, and then, I mean, you've got like an Airbnb as well, and everything else. So how does that work?
It's easy. I just don't do anything on the other ones. like it sounds cool to be like, yeah, I run or I own 3 businesses. But the reality is, like, Ryan and I, my partner on Fomo, we bought the business as 50-50 partners. Kettle and Fire started taking off. And I was like, I can't spend any more time on this. I can't let it occupy my thought cycles. I need to step away. And I like gave him some of my equity so that I could do nothing.
Got it.
And so I do nothing with Fomo. Perfect Keto, I don't do much for either. Like, some ideas, I give the guy we just hired, like, our marketing playbook that we're doing with Kettle and Fire, like help work with him a little bit. Not really actively involved. Like, Kettle and Fire is a full-time 60 hours a week type deal. And everything else is just kind of like a fun distraction. And it's cool to have those, but I'm not like a time management guy.
it quells some of that ADD impulse to go start new things, try new things.
Exactly. Yeah. So now I'm like, where that ADD is going is towards like investing in Bitcoin and shit, which is great.
Any other side projects like that besides the cryptos?
Cryptos is a big one. Yeah. So a lot of investing in cryptos.
Do you still do any 3D printing stuff?
No, I haven't done any 3D printing stuff in a while. Side projects. I've been writing more actually this year, surprisingly. And then
you've resurrected your blog.
Yeah, finally. It's about time after 4 years.
I remember 2 years ago, I think this was when we were just starting Programming for Marketers. You said that you were going to start writing an article every week.
Hopelessly naive, I would say. But no, other side projects. Probably going to buy more property on Airbnb and like do the Airbnb thing. And then might buy more software apps on Shopify with Ryan. And then cryptos, man. Cryptos are like my thing right now.
Do you have any normal person hobbies or?
No, so this is a problem. This is kind of the problem, but I mean, I do CrossFit. I like have an incredible group of friends that I hang out with a lot, but this is actually something I've been thinking about, and I basically don't have any hobbies. Like everyone gets all this joy from their hobbies, and like every hobby I've tried, I'm just like, fuck, this is like this is boring. You know what I mean?
It's not as exciting as the business stuff.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. Like maybe it's unhealthy for me, or I don't know. Yeah. But like I literally don't have, and I've tried stuff. Like I've tried painting, I've tried creative writing, I've tried like improv classes, I've tried playing outside, I've tried like basketball leagues, and I like some of them. I just am never excited enough to like keep doing them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I think I've had a really similar experience where there's just something you get from working on, and for me, a lot of it's the writing and this kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
But like that thrill and challenge, it's very hard to find something anywhere near that stimulating.
Yeah, totally. And I really don't know if it's a bad thing, but
yeah, that's the question is, I don't know, because sometimes I feel guilty and, I need to have a hobby. But then you also wonder, is that your own desire to self-optimize and be perfect telling you that
I know.
you should also have a hobby? you're not busy and
then
interesting
you're like
enough.
begrudgingly getting a hobby or something like that.
But it has to be a cool, kind of productive hobby, right? Like photography.
Exactly.
You have to grow your Instagram account on the side.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like some people, like Anthony is a great example. He plays guitar. He's an amazing cook. He is like does woodwork shit. He does a bunch of like working out and is into music and it's just like all of these super interesting things. And then you talk to me and I'm just like, I don't really have anything interesting. Like outside of business stuff and reading,
yeah.
like I'm a dull boy, you know?
I'm right there with you.
Yeah, I don't know. I still don't know if it's good or bad.
Yeah. So I mean, you didn't study any food science or entrepreneurship or anything in college.
Finance.
Yeah. What was your college experience like?
It was fun. It was really fun.
Really fun.
Yeah. It was interesting. It was an amazing chunk of 4 years, 2.5 of which I used to just like explore and experiment with starting my own business without anyone thinking that I was going to succeed. Like there was no pressure for that to actually do anything. You know what I mean? Like, I think that was my biggest takeaway from college is like, oh, these classes don't really matter. No one around me. I mean, you went to a much better school than I did, but like Pitt was uninspiring is like probably a compliment when in terms of like the Pitt Business School.
The school was uninspiring or the students? Or
both. Yeah. Both. Yeah. I mean, like I graduated and was like, if I don't do better than all of these business kids that I graduated with, like I have failed because these are not the movers and shakers that I want to be around.
Hopefully none of your classmates are listening
opposite.
to this.
It doesn't matter. Do better if you are. But yeah, and so it was very uninspiring. And so I was pretty quickly like, and even my teachers, like none of my teachers were super inspiring or had even done well. It's like, why am I listening to you? If I don't know. Anyway. Yeah, I don't know. I just felt like all of college was like taking dieting advice from a fat person. Like I didn't believe that any of it was worthwhile, you know? And yeah, so it ended up being way more valuable and like that I could spend 4 years just trying to figure out what I wanted to do and playing around with my own projects instead of going to school.
Where do you think that motivation came from to pursue this other stuff if the environment was that unmotivating?
I think that was part of it. I think it was a couple of things. Like I saw all the people around me. I was like, wow, I don't want to hang out with these people. And then around the same time, my dad, who's been like a career, normal career guy, which is fine, great, lost his job. And so that was the first like, oh, my dad's done everything right in terms of graduating, working hard, getting a job, working at the same company for a long time. He lost his job in the recession. And so I was like, okay, a career does not necessarily mean that you're financially free or like that you're good for life. And then I met a mentor that summer who was like the first guy I'd ever met who'd started his own company, and talking to him. And I was just like, man, this is what I want to do. And I want to do my own thing. Like I've gotten fired from all of my jobs so far in my life. Like, why don't I take the hint and try and do my own thing? You know?
Why did you get fired from?
Because I'm a terrible employee. I mean, I'm like a sort of bad. I mean, I just like am interested in everything except what I'm doing, like especially with other jobs. And so, and I also had shitty jobs. Like I was plastering pools. I was a janitor. I was working at Subway. I was working at a smoothie blending place. Like these are not great jobs that are like very engaging, you know?
If you did have to take a real job, what do you think you would be most likely to put up with?
I would probably be like a security guard or something.
Really?
Yeah.
Bouncer at a club or?
No. Like the lazy dude that sits in the front of buildings and just does nothing.
Buzzes people in.
Yeah.
Things just read all day. And...
Yeah. Or I would do that, or like babysitters. Something that's like very low paying, like enough to get by, but where you kind of have control over your own time and you're not really working towards anything, I think.
Yeah. Well, I've heard that be discussed before as a really good way for people who are curious and like coming up with ideas and stuff, that almost having a boring, reliable job that you go to, it sparks some of that creativity.
Yeah.
It's like Einstein sitting in the patent office.
I was just going to say that.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I mean, obviously I would take a better job if I could get one. Like if I could run a private equity fund or something, like I would do that instead, obviously. But if it was just like a normal job, but even then I just said run a private equity fund. Like that's not a normal job and I still don't have a boss. So like if I had to have a boss, it'd just be boring. Something boring.
Have you always been that way? Or was it something that developed once you started doing some of your own projects?
I don't know. I think that for me, for whatever reason, in order to work under someone, need to feel like they're way better than I am, where like I'm learning from them. And I never felt that in college. I never felt that. I felt that at Exceptional, and that was it. And that was the only job I've ever like kept.
But even that one ended eventually.
Well, yeah, but if we hadn't gotten acquired, like I don't know that I would have. Like I was not working under the founder, Jonathan, when we got acquired. I had a different boss, different setup, and like that was fine. And it was like the guy was amazing, but that I was then working under, but I never felt like he was someone that I wanted to be in 20 years. And I never felt like I was just learning from him with every single interaction. Whereas the founder of Exceptional, I was like, I totally want to be exactly that in 15 years. And so it made it really easy to work with him because it's like you're learning the entire way.
Did you have other mentors like that along the way who were a big impact on you?
Yeah, definitely. I had one mentor in Pittsburgh who was amazing. This guy, Adam. I was doing roommate fit in college and he was like, hey, if you want to do roommate fit for a bit after school and it doesn't work out, like, let me know. If you ever need it, I'll just like give you $10,000 to get back on your feet. I'll hire you if you need it. Like whatever you want to do, I can get you a job. Just like you should go try and do this thing that you're excited about. And that was amazing. Having that fallback was really, really amazing.
How have you found a lot of these mentors and people that have had that kind of big impact?
Cold emailing people.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. Because at the time I didn't really have much of a network. And so, and you're in Pittsburgh too. And I went to a bad school. Like, it wasn't not a bad school. It wasn't a great school. And so it wasn't like I was meeting these brilliant people just in my life. I was like stumbling past super drunk pit kids and like ignoring my professors. I kind of had to be proactive about who I was meeting.
And it's probably easier. I mean, it's so much easier now that you're out here in SF.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. And once you have some network, like it gets way easier. I'm not outbound cold emailing people anymore often. But at the time that was all I was doing. I was emailing like 3 to 5 people a week probably, which is a lot.
How were you picking people to reach out to?
Anyone in Pittsburgh. It was like trolling LinkedIn. It was like a weird job I had.
Yeah. Was it mostly to raise money or was it actually just
no, none of it was to raise money. It was just like, hey, I'm a young kid in college, want to chat about entrepreneurship. That was it.
Well, I mean, that's such a good pitch too when you're still a student.
Dude, the in college thing is the best. Yeah.
People don't milk that enough.
No, I know. It's amazing. Yeah. Like everyone wants to meet with you because everyone's like, oh, you're so dumb, but like you have so much talent and potential.
I remember when I was you.
Yeah, exactly.
Confused and lost.
Exactly. But the truth is, if you come across someone in college that is taking the initiative to cold email you and is looking to meet other entrepreneurs, like that kid is probably going to kill it. Like that kid plus 10 years is going to be crushing it, because no one does that.
Very few people.
Yeah.
And so for them too, for the person that is being reached out to, it's almost like a good investment in
totally
that person's future.
Exactly, man. Exactly. And like, yeah, I mean, I would respond to any student that emailed me today, as long as it was thoughtful.
And as long as you're not getting thousands and thousands of emails from this interview.
Yeah.
We'll put Justin's email in the show notes.
I'll give you my Bitcoin email.
There we go. You got to go on 21.co.
Exactly.
Hey, what's your bill rate on 21.co?
I don't know. I'll probably make it like a penny or something stupid. But yeah, But that's the thing. Like I would literally respond to anyone that emailed me as a college student.
Yeah. Because I would do the same,
Right. I mean, dude, when we chatted, it was like, because I'm 2 years older than you.
More like 3. You're 27, right?
Okay. 3 years. Yeah. So it's like this guy is a smart hustler, thoughtful guy. And he's emailing I think you emailed me, or we
Well, I
were on the same
emailed-
thing. I can't remember.
I emailed the whole deal list because I was trying to help my friend find a job with a startup.
That's right.
And you wanted an intro to him.
That's right.
And then I realized you had written Traction.
Yes,
and
that's right. Okay. But yeah, and so I saw, I mean, like, you're a good investment too. I mean, obviously it wasn't like I'm not 10 years older than you, but it's very clear that if someone is smart, trying to start their own thing, reaching out, writing a blog, like doing all the shit you're doing at 22 or 21, you're like that whatever that is totally going to lead to good things down the road.
And we ended up working together really quickly after that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
I think we connected it must have been October.
Yeah.
And then in December, we started programming for marketers.
Yeah. I was like, so I have this SQL for marketers course and I have this idea that we could make it more. And you were like, I own the domain programming for marketers. should we? And I was like, I don't know how that happened. But
yeah.
Great.
The definition of serendipity.
Yeah, exactly. It was perfect.
Yeah.
And we killed it. It was great.
Yeah, it was great.
Worked out really well.
Good learning experience.
Totally.
And now, I don't know if you've noticed this, but there are actually a lot of people who have basically copied all of our design and stuff for their own email courses.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know
Since
that.
I wrote that article about the whole process and had all the screenshots and things.
Yeah, dude. Oh, that's the thing. People are just like, oh, this is what I have to do. Like it's a recipe book that they then plug online and expect to make 100K. Like,
to be fair though, that's what we were doing too. I mean, we basically took Brennan Dunn's charge what you're worth and Noah's email 1K landing pages and just combined them.
It's true.
Put our course together and threw it up. I mean, with email courses in particular, they're pretty overplayed now.
Yep.
We were really early in that.
Yep. Always pays to be early, I think. Well, it's better than being late.
Definitely better than being late. Yeah. Early enough.
Yeah.
So you're not like creating the vertical.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. For sure.
Most things.
Especially in terms of marketing.
Yeah, with
channels
marketing
and
stuff. You don't want to come in at the end when everyone's already sick of
No.
email courses. And
No, like I would not start one now.
no, definitely not. You have to do something else.
Facebook chatbot.
Chatbot.
That's what I would do. Programming for marketers chatbot.
There we go. You could just ask it questions. Oh, how would I grow
Just
this
spits
thing?
out JavaScript or something.
Spits out links to our own articles and services. Oh, you should sign up for Fomo.
Exactly. First, you should make sure your sexual health is taken care of, so your head is clear before working on programming.
We mixed up our bots again.
Exactly. It's a poor Zapier integration.
How did your parents feel about you doing all this non-traditional stuff in college?
Not good.
No?
Not good for a while. And then great.
Well, how did those conversations go in the beginning? Why do you say not good?
Because they wanted me to take a traditional job. Like, look, when I was doing Roommate Fit and shortly after I graduated, I made $12,000 in 2012, which is like the year I graduated. Yeah. So that's not much. Like, no parent can be like, yeah, my son's killing it. You know what I mean? They're like, my son is 16, like way below the poverty line. And we just went into debt to pay his college.
To pay for his college.
Yeah. Or to like pay for part of my college.
Wait, how were you surviving then? Were you just living super frugally?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it was in
Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh.
This
So
is
it's-
Pittsburgh.
Yeah, it's doable.
So that was, my rent was $400 a month.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had $600 and then I could ride the buses because my pit ID didn't expire for a year. So
Nice.
I started the buses everywhere. Yeah, that was life for Justin at the time. And so they were not stoked. Like, came out of school and Justin's making no money and is really kind of aimless. And they'd known me up to that point as like a pretty aimless kid who had gotten fired from every job that they'd wanted him to take. And so they were like, you need to learn discipline. You need to go get a job. You need to go into corporate. And so they were pretty not happy with it. And then as soon as I started working at Exceptional and things started going well, and that's when they like kind of came around.
Was that part of why you took the job at Exceptional?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Not at all.
Yeah, because it wasn't really corporate. It was still 8 people.
Yeah,
like you said,
not at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't corporate at all. It's the opposite.
But so it became much easier once you had that job. I guess after you shut down Roommate Fit, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it became easier once you go like, mom and dad, I can afford things. You know what I mean? And especially after the acquisition, like I was getting paid really well because was a public company, and so my parents were like, okay, good job.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's all they care about is like, I don't want my child to starve. And if he's in danger of starving, I think he's not doing well. If he's not, he can be unhappy. That's fine. But if he starves, like, that looks really bad on me.
Yeah. It's going to be really embarrassing to tell my friends about.
Yeah, exactly. How are your kids? Justin died of starvation.
Remember the unemployed son? Well, he's lost a lot of weight.
Exactly. They were happier after.
Yeah. Did you quit stuff a lot as a kid?
Yeah, everything.
Everything? Like sports, clubs?
Yeah, I still struggle with that. I mean, it's a good and a bad thing. Like, I get really interested in something and then I drop it a couple months later and go do something else. And, fortunately, startups are one of the few things I think, maybe not the few, honestly, I just haven't gotten deep on a bunch of stuff, but they're one of the things where like Kettle and Fire today is such a different and interesting challenge than it was when we started it.
Right.
And so that keeps me super interested. But yeah, I used to quit things all the time, like jobs. Yeah, everything, pretty much.
Yeah, I was exactly the same way. I don't know if this was the case for you, but for me, that was always sort of a source of tension with my parents. I think they always thought that it was kind of a bad sign that I would do something, get really into it for a couple months, and then quit.
We had a ritual where my dad would like drive me around to different places and force me to walk inside while he sat in the car, and I'd like fill out a job application, and then we'd go and like drive to the next shopping mall, and I'd do the same thing because he was like, you just need to work, and I know if I don't make you do this, you're not going to do it.
It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Was there anything that you stuck with like way longer, particularly when you were younger?
Guitar Hero.
Were video games like a big thing for you, or just that one?
2 games. There was Metroid Prime and Guitar Hero were like my things.
Nice.
Yeah, I am still one of the best Guitar Hero players I've ever seen.
We'll have to do Guitar Hero sometime.
Yeah, dude, it was so funny. I went home for Christmas and I played Guitar Hero for the first time in like 2 years probably, and I was still like beating all the songs on expert. Nice. And it was awesome. I was like, maybe I should buy this. No, that's a terrible idea.
And that was how Kettle and Fire failed.
Yeah, exactly.
No, the reason I ask is I feel like the only thing that broke my video game addiction was discovering startups and entrepreneurship stuff.
Really? I didn't know you were a gamer.
Oh, yeah. I was on like Carnegie Mellon's competitive team for a hot second.
What?
Yeah.
What video games?
Dota, mostly.
What is that?
So, League of Legends?
No.
Oh, okay. Man,
I'm not a gamer.
I don't have a good way to explain it in short, but it's like 5-on-5. Okay, so like a typical RPG, right? Where you like level up a character and you fight other characters.
What is RPG?
Role-playing game.
Okay.
Like Dungeons and Dragons, Fallout.
I've heard of
Skyrim.
I've heard of these names. I don't know what they mean though.
Okay. Well, for the sake of our listeners, I'm not going to go too much into it. But lots of StarCraft in high school and lots of Dota in college.
Okay.
So, do you know StarCraft?
No.
Man. We're going to have to do video game education after this.
Yeah, I would be worried about that. I'd be worried about me getting addicted to that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the thing with those games in particular was that since they were competitive against other people and they had such a crazy steep learning curve that it was almost impossible to get bored of them because there was always a new challenge, a new way to improve. And that was actually how I really got into like studying experts and trying to figure out how they do things, because I would watch professional players on Twitch and YouTube and like see how they did stuff, and then I would bring that back into my own game. And I think a lot of that actually transferred over to the entrepreneurship startup stuff because I had that habit already.
Actually, that's another company I was looking at starting, was in a space that I know nothing about.
I was going to say, you were going to start an esports company?
Yes, actually. I was going to start one where you would buy in and basically bet on different esports players.
I mean, that's a huge market right now.
Yeah, so this was like 2 years ago. So I think we would have had maybe a shot. I don't know.
Well, they're embroiled in a lot of weird lawsuits too, because it's a question of, is it actually gambling or not?
Right. Yeah. Or is it a game of skill? Right.
Yeah. Game of skill. And it's also, people are gambling on a lot of it using in-game items that have like a monetary value outside the game. And so it's just all these question marks. I think Valve got sued for some stupid amount of money. I don't think it was successful, but
yeah. So I'd love to be in that. Love to face lawsuit.
Yeah, my friend actually really got in that scene early on when he was in college. So like buying and selling in-game items, and he made $30,000-$40,000 doing it.
Wow,
it's crazy. So,
Awesome.
You know,
Yeah, that's way smarter than motorcycles.
doing motorcycles.
Yeah, this is what I mean. Like your friends are just way smarter.
Do you, if you were going to pick one book to give to either the freshmen or the graduating seniors at UPitt, like books that have had like a really big impact on you, what do you think you would pick? Top maybe 2 or 3?
I hate to say this, but I think the 4-Hour Workweek would be one of them.
Why do you say you hate to say it?
Because it feels sort of played out. But the second piece is that I think people take the wrong message from that. Like, I think the message from that is you can use these tools, like entrepreneurship being one, time management being another, outsourcing being another. You can use these tools and these principles and these ways of thinking to build the life that you want and to do whatever you want. And I think that people take the opposite, which is like, oh, this is how I make $10,000 a month doing 4 hours of work a week. That's fucking stupid. And so I think if you take the right message, it's an amazing book. It was a huge wake up for me. And it was one of the first books that I was like, wow, this is actually possible. Like this is now an option on my plate where it was not before. So that was awesome. Other books, I truthfully, I would try and do like a personal recommendation to somebody, but another book that I thought was tremendous actually was Mastery by Robert Greene.
Yeah.
I thought that was fantastic. If I had to go further down that vein, it would be So Good They Can't Ignore You or Deep Work both by Cal Newport. Yeah. Like any of those books are amazing. And I actually think Mastery and the 4-Hour Workweek would be a good combination of like, you can build the life you want, but you have to be able to build a valuable skill set in order to build the life you want. Like, I think those two things go very closely together.
They're actually really good complements to each other.
Yeah, exactly.
Because if you can take all of the mentality around efficiency and effectiveness from the 4-Hour Workweek, but then apply it to actually mastering something, not just trying to do as little as possible, then, I mean, that combination is pretty deadly.
Well, and also just appreciating that mastery is how you make a meaningful mark and carve out like a place in the world. And the answer is not sell crappy Kindle ebooks as like a pen name that you made up like I did. The answer is like get really good at something. And I think that Mastery is one of the best books on that topic that I've come across.
Oh, definitely. I'd throw in Peak too.
I haven't read that.
Oh, it's really good. So, the whole 10,000 hour rule from Malcolm Gladwell.
Uh-huh.
So he misinterpreted Anders Ericsson's data about mastering skills. So Anders actually wrote this book to explain all of his research and what it actually means, mastering skills and learning and deliberate practice and all of that stuff.
Super cool.
So that's where a lot of some of Cal Newport's stuff comes from too. So if you want to go to the source on that, on like that whole area, Peak, really good.
Sweet. I will check that out.
Any last thoughts, pieces of advice, college students, recent graduates listening in, thing that we haven't covered that you want to throw out there?
Do you use shampoo again?
No, it's been
strong hair day.
7-8 months. Thank you.
It's a great hair day. Other things. No, I mean, honestly, actually I'll say 2 things that I wish I knew. Things would have been way easier for me if I realized that I could just pick someone that I wanted to be like 15 years in the future and copy them exactly. Like that is probably a better path than what 99% of people try and do. That was so helpful for me when I figured that out. The second thing is that I had so much angst when I was in college, feeling like I'm not doing enough, or I need to be this like super successful entrepreneur like right now, and I'm not good enough, or I'm not learning fast enough, or these things aren't happening like the way I want them to. And I wish that instead of being so results oriented, I had just been like, okay, if I am a person that writes a blog post every month, that is reading 2 to 3 books a week, that is taking 3 to 5 coffee meetings with other entrepreneurs a week, that is starting my own business in college and like doing all these different things, like the person that's doing all that in college is going to do really well. And I wish that instead of putting all that angst on myself, I had just like trusted the process and been like, if I do these things, I'm going to be just fine.
I think that's a fantastic note to wrap up on.
There we go.
Justin, where can people find you online if they want to reach out, learn more about you, read articles?
So justinmares.com. You can find one of my poorly written, quickly chunked out articles. They're basically the exact opposite of yours.
Well, they should read your process and reason for doing that, because I think it's a great way for anyone who's not in the writing habit to get started.
Thank you.
The lowercase.
Yeah. Appreciate that.
It's a really cool tactic.
And then, so justinmares.com. I'm also on Twitter at JWMares.
Perfect.
I'm verified too. So.
You're verified. Yeah. I'm very jealous.
Dude, you could get it. You just need to apply. You wrote a book on sex. You're famous enough.
All right. This is a lot of fun, Justin.
Yeah,
Thank you
great.
again.
Thanks, man.
And let's go drink some bone broth or something.
Let's do it. Heat it up.
All right. Thanks. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Nat Chat. If you enjoyed the podcast, please subscribe to Nat Chat in iTunes, Stitcher, Overcast, or wherever you get your podcasts. Second, if you're trying to take advantage of some of the information from this episode, be sure you check out the show notes at nataliason, nateliason.com/podcast, and find a friend, because implementing a lot of this stuff is much easier if you have somebody to do it with. And finally, if you enjoyed this episode and you've been enjoying other episodes of the podcast, please leave it a review on iTunes, Stitcher, wherever you listen to your casts, so that more people can find it. This is the best way for it to get some more exposure and to make sure that I can keep bringing these episodes to you. With that, thank you and have an awesome rest of your day.